There were tense moments today at the Tafo area in the Ashanti region capital, Kumasi, as armed military and police personnel managed to prevent hundreds of young persons from causing trouble after the burial of a man shot dead at the NDC headquarters on Monday. It is the anger sparked by attacks unleashed by some NDC-linked private militia group, the Hawks, on their own leaders who were meeting at its Ashanti region headquarters over Saturday's flag-bearer elections. One died, another seriously injured. Police is now looking for some suspects. About 4 of them were told. We'll be live in Kumasi for reasons why those young men attempted to cause trouble today. But this situation heightens the push to fully deal with the private militias, and we've put together a panel to push our campaign to end political violence. The hashtag is Disband Party Militias Now. We'll start with some videos showing some of the terror unleashed by these militias. So those are some of the visuals. You've seen the characteristics of the party militia we're talking about. Those visuals you saw were what happened some time back, where the regional security coordinator, who was appointed at the time, had his appointment resisted fiercely by those group of militia there. You saw how they appear to be confronting the police officers who were sent there and throwing insults at them as well. We know subsequently what happened. Subsequently, they were supposed to appear in court. They went to court, and a similar thing happened in court. They actually freed some of their men who had been arrested by the police. They freed them, and there were thoughts that they actually terrorized, or their presence actually terrorized the judge in court. Well, fast forward, we know how the story ended. So we're launching this campaign, #Disband Party Militia now, and we're asking you to join with your thoughts. Let us know what you think on our WhatsApp line. The number is 050-564-6330. You'll see it on your screen shortly. It's 050-564-6330. What do you think? What is the best approach? And what do you think about mounting pressure on the political parties, the political individuals within the political parties who we're told, own these private militia groups, and which they use to unleash terror, to unleash violence, sometimes even against state agencies? Let's know what you think about it. So let's talk to you about what we found regarding the known militia groups in Ghana and those known to be associated with which party. We have a list of some of them, and this is all we got by just checking on the internet. Now, if you have more, you can send those details to us via our social media handles. Again, I've given you that number. But let me take you through what we found on the internet. So first, we found what they're calling the Eastern Members. And we're told that the information is that this party is affiliated, some way, somehow to the NDC, or now that we know that the NDC or the parties are saying they do not own these political parties, that individuals within these parties own, created, fund this group. It is called the Eastern Members. Well, what we know is that it is the latest group to have been formed, and according to the Eastern Regional Organizer of the NDC, the main aim of the group is to protect ballot boxes during election 2020. We also saw, when we checked on the internet, the Hawks. The Hawks, according to the information as well, it is linked to the NDC, and online, it is reported that the Hawks were one of the 3 groups outdoored by the General Secretary of the party, Johnson Asiedu Nketia. We also know again that the aim of the group is to counter activities of private or political militia groups formed by the opposers, the NPP. We also know about the Kandahar Boys. Of course, this name is no news. It's been in the news for some time now, which, based on the information available, also is affiliated to the NPP. Earlier, there were reports that the Kandahar Boys sacked the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO of the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Again, we know about the Azoka Boys. And of course, the Azoka Boys is, we understand, affiliated to the NDC as well. The Azoka Boys had been in the news where they had been responding to some attempted diversion of votes during the 2016 elections. Then there is the Bolga Bulldogs. Understand the Bolga Bulldogs group affiliated to the NPP. We've heard about the Invincible Forces as well, which is affiliated to the NPP. We've also heard about the Delta Forces, which is affiliated to the NPP. Like I indicated earlier, these parties or these groups, these groups have been, well, virtually disowned by these parties, because they say they're not owned by the political parties, but by individuals within these political parties. So these are what we know so far, about 7 of them really. If you know more, let us hear about it. Share with us as we wage the war against the existence of militia groups. The number is 050-564-6330. So all of these have come about as a result of the violence which happened at Labaoleshi during last month's by-election at the Yawaso West Wuogon constituency. Now, before we set the ball rolling, listen to some senior members of our society who've been condemning violence related to political activity.
I quite agree with you saying that if we call these things political vigilantism, we dignify it. That's right. And make it a noble cause. And like all bad things in this country, we call bribes by fond names and we stop seeing them as bad. We call these things political vigilantism, and we don't quite appreciate how bad. It is plain warlordism. And they are militias. They are not political vigilantes. They are militias. And so it gives me concern if you are responsible for internal security and there are militias operating all over, and they are private militias subject to some people's control. Those people are warlords. And if we don't take the matter in hand and confront it as such, and we take the position that when they commit an offense, then we will deal with it, I'm afraid you would have bred a dragon that you cannot control.
When we talk about political vigilantism, the police administration, from our first Ghanaian police chief, Mr. E.R.T. Majite, through one of our most respected Inspectors General of Police, Mr. Peter Namfuri, during President Jerry Rawlings' regime, to myself, have all struggled to curb it. We want to appeal to all political parties to immediately denounce their own vigilante groups, to create the necessary awareness that will embolden the police. Furthermore, if any political party intends to create new vigilante groups, we appeal for a reversal of such intention. This battle is national in character, and we need all hands on deck. The police are poised to arrest and profile any group of people claiming to be vigilante groups, irrespective of their political affiliation. We are declaring zero tolerance against political violence and vigilantism. Vigilante groups are illegal. The police will do our bit and advise all to desist from using the police as a soft target in pouring blame.
Assault is assault. Stealing is stealing. Murder is murder. There's nothing else to say about it. And Mr. President has been very, very clear that crime has no political color. Yesterday, when I heard the General Secretary of NDC speaking, he was practically repeating the position that Mr. President has declared. And so we expect that the police would investigate the matter expeditiously, and that those who are responsible are brought to book. The death of one person is regrettable, but I would entreat all those who feel victimized by that action to help the police investigate, not to take the law into their hands to try to revenge, because that in itself will be another form of vigilantism, namely that you are taking the law into your hands. You are not supposed to enforce the law by yourself, and you are enforcing it. And this is an opportunity for us, all political parties, to recognize the point that we're making all along, that security is a collective responsibility. It is not a blame game, pointing of fingers. This person is involved, who's caused it? The important thing is there is an offense committed. We should all work together to bring the culprits, those who are culpable, to book and let the law take its course. It's straight and simple.
Yeah, so it looks like everybody is singing the same chorus, but still the problem persists. Today, the NCCE held a news conference vowing to condemn the practice and promising to wage a relentless war on party militias.
The country witnessed another fatal incident 3 days ago involving an alleged vigilante group called the Hawks in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The Hawks, alleged to be allied to the biggest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, clashed with a supposed task force of the party last Monday at the regional party office. The sad incident saw one person dead and another seriously injured. It is important to note again that these thugs have turned inwards and attacked their own. Clearly a manifestation that these groups can no longer be controlled by their affiliated political parties. We take the opportunity to commiserate with the bereaved family of the late Wasiu Idrisu and urges them to exercise restraint whilst the police carries out their investigations. The NCC maintains its condemnation of any political violence by thugs styled as vigilante groups, and therefore vociferously condemns this latest incident in the strongest terms. Indeed, the Commission reiterates that activities of political thugs, wherever it rears its ugly head, has no space in our democracy. These acts are sowing seeds of political instability, crumbling the pillars of democracy, and threatening the peace of our country. The NCC will continue to condemn, name, and shame all political parties who endorse, support, sponsor, and/or identify themselves with any of these groups until these groups are disbanded in word and in deed. The rhetoric, we say, must stop, and we must see clear commitment by political parties to disband these groups in the interest of peace and stability of Ghana. The Commission has consistently alerted political actors and political leaders on the dangers these thugs pose to the security of our country. It is regrettable to note that despite these repeated calls, political leaders and politicians of influence continue to downplay the NCC's warnings and that of other concerned institutions and personalities to end political party vigilantism, but rather make pronouncements that further embolden these violent groups who are mostly used to fulfill the parochial and political interest of politicians. Every citizen of Ghana has the right to security as enshrined under the provisions of human rights in our 1992 Constitution. And the Commission holds the view that the activities of these political hoodlums, backed, endorsed, or sponsored by political parties, are an abuse of our rights. Active citizenship cannot be exercised in meaningful ways if people fear for their safety. The Commission calls on all Ghanaians, business entities, religious groups, media, trades union, academia, students, civil society organizations, leaders of all institutions, including right-thinking politicians, to rise up and speak against political parties and political leaders with political party affiliated thugs or groups attached to them.
Momentarily, I'll be engaging a security expert and the NCCE as well. And I do have our Deputy Head of Political Desk here, Malika Bastabu. So we'll all be engaging in that conversation like we did yesterday. But before that, I have a video of one politician that I want to show you today, Joseph Yamin. He's an NDC man. He was Deputy Sports Minister in the previous administration. He made some comment about this conversation, what we're talking about party militia groups. Listen to him.
No, but you are disbanding them and stopping them from being party members or what? You see, we should be criticizing actions that goes beyond their mandates, yes. But if you call for disbandment of it, what do you mean? I mean, I don't understand.
And the commission, here in the Iowa was Wogon. Yes, and they describe these vigilante groups as militias and those who are financing them as warlords. We heard that you are financing these hawks. What is the truth in this?
Have you heard us bringing Serbians to come and train them? Have you heard us bringing South African people? Where were these people when people were brought from South Africa and Serbia to come and train people? You see, you are comparing grapes to oranges. Totally different issue here. We are talking about a group within a political party that had the backing of a presidential candidate today, the president, brought people outside this country to bring military training to them, different from the training we have in this country. Can you tell me anywhere you find the Hawks being trained? These are party people and they play their role as party members. That is all. So don't compare us to the invisible force.
I mean, with the way you're talking, it's as if you are financing them.
Financing them. If I finance them to do their activities in the party, what is wrong with that? That is the question I also want to put to you. That you are singling out the Hawks. What is your interest? Have you heard any Hawks member going beyond terrorizing Ghanaians like the invisible forces and others are doing? Have you heard any Hawks member going to a regional coordinating council to pull a whole regional security council coordinator down? No. If we are talking about people in political parties that are abusing whatever rule they have, terrorizing Ghanaians, let's talk about that. This is an issue that happened within a political party, and the party had issued a statement claiming that it's a criminal issue. Any issue that has to do with a life lost, it's a criminal issue, and the party is cooperating with the police to get to the bottom of them, and that is why we are here. But the issue of let's ban vigilante groups, they were there as a party members, and unfortunately an issue happened. I'm saying that if we should go to that extent and try to compare, because there's these vigilante groups that just terrorize people in this.
But so then it means you are financing them.
What is wrong with financing party people? They are party members.
So
what is your issue? What is the finance? What do you talk about finance? What do you mean?
Because there is a case where the
So let's begin the conversation. The chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Joseph Nkrumah, will be joining us on the line soon. But I have here in the studio with me our deputy head of JoyNews political desk, Malik Abbas Dabu. And via the telephone, I have Colonel Festus Abuaje. He's a security analyst. Sir, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Colonel, can you hear me? Colonel Abuaje, can you hear me?
I can.
Very well. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Right. I'm just going to add you to the conversation I'm having with my colleague here, Malik Abbas Dabu, about this new campaign that we're starting, and it's really about disbanding militia, party militia, disbanding party militia, which is what, and I'm wondering to find out what you think about this phrase. Yesterday, Professor Henrietta Mensah-Bonsu said that the moment you begin to call them vigilantes, you give them a certain level of credibility, you give them a certain identity, which is far beyond what these groups really exist to do. So we're beginning this conversation where we're giving them the names that they deserve, if you like. Party militia. This sounds good to you?
Well, I think all the different nomenclatures have to be contextualized in the current situation in which we find ourselves. So in that context, or in that regard, political vigilantism speaks to the phenomenon as is being evidenced currently. Party militias, once again, would speak to that same dimension. I think, upon analysis, none of these nomenclatures would be the absolute one. But all of them, if we're able to contextualize appropriately, should be able to explain to us precisely what this phenomenon is about. So I would accept all. Political vigilantism, party militias, I would even add state capture by political actors.
State cartel by political actors.
By political actors. Because political parties and political actors, given the emphasis that some are placing on financiers within political parties. Given that dimension,
okay,
there are certain individuals within the political architecture of this country who are capturing the state. In other words, who are eroding from the state the powers that the state has over the coercive instruments of state. So broadly speaking, I would accept all of them.
You'll accept all of them.
As long as we understand the precise context in which those nomenclatures have been used.
So really the conversation with this hashtag that we're looking to push is disbanding these groups. But the concern has been, what do you do after you've disbanded the groups? What do you do with these people who have skills? What do you do with these people who have had access to ammunition? These people who have been exposed to national security apparatus, for example. What do you do? What do you do after you disband them? You have any ideas?
Well, I think some persons who have appeared before the commission, precisely your colleague Evans Mensah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And today the NDC parliamentary candidate for Ayawaso. And generally within the media, there have been many people who have articulated views about this. First of all, we need to understand the urgency of disbanding them. And disbandment in this case means, technical terms, means dismantling the command and control networks that exist between so-called warlords or financiers and their clientele, which in this case would be the political party. That command and control network or mechanism needs to be dismantled. It also means, and I think that was the evidence that Evans advanced and some other people, that disbandment alone is not going to be sufficient. We need to disarm. And we should not think that disarmament will not be possible. You don't have too much time, but I will tell you for a fact that when the British intended to destroy the Ashanti Kingdom, they were able to follow the Ashanti partisan army all the way into the Bono Arab, search and capture all of them and disarm them in order to create circumstances or conditions that led to the eventual colonization of Ashanti and the Northern Territory. It can't be done, and it needs to be done. We can put together an expert team in order to advise, ourselves as to how this could be done, but it's got to be done, and it is possible that it can be done. And that is where we need to apply the state resources to identify who these individuals are, place them under surveillance if need be, and arrest them, capture them, and get them to disclose where these weapons are, who supplied them, and bring those persons to court. I think we're not doing that well enough, because the evidence today shows from the Director of Operations, my good friend Kenneth Michael Opoku, that if it was true that they had monitored the flow of persons all the way from Tamale and Kumasi with arms and ammunition into Accra. So how were these people able to disappear within the society until this penultimate day, 31st January? And indeed, we stand to be corrected that we have not even found the so-called stockpile of weapons and ammunition, meaning that we have failed the state and we have endangered the security of the state, and the consequences will be faced by all of us.
You have been in the security, you understand, I'm sure, the security structure of this country because you've been in a part of it before you retired. You're saying that we should find out who these guys are, put surveillance on them, and be able to, bring them to book, etc. But is that a better way to do it rather than allowing for voluntary surrender, if you like? As Evans has suggested yesterday, allow these people, announce an amnesty, say that you are allowed to bring whatever weapons you have, or, you will not be prosecuted, etc. Is going, the forceful way where you are saying, let's put surveillance on them, arrest them, prosecute them, the way to go rather than allowing for
let us let us understand that no one mechanism might be able to help us to resolve this dilemma. So it is a combination of mechanisms. There have to be the less coercive tools, but they also have to be coercive tools. So I think somebody has appeared before the commission who has alluded to the fact, probably Ivan Spencer, that we have granted amnesty and buyback weapon programs before. So how come we are now having a society that is infested with weapons? So that mechanism alone is not going to work. We need to apply forceful sanctions, through the legal means that the state has at its disposal, and to employ the structures that constitute national security. After all, what is the ultimate objective of national security? It is the safety and security of our sovereignty and the safety and security of the person who constitutes Ghana, and indeed anybody who is within the borders of this country.
But
So
will
that
you
we
say,
know- Yes.
will you say that what has happened earlier has been successful? That's a question on my colleague Malik's mind right now. Whether or not what has happened in the past regarding how we treated the arms in the system has been successful.
It might have been successful, but remember, this should be a process. So even if it was successful then, it doesn't mean that the day after we go to sleep. The day after, we need to put into place mechanisms that will continually be able to find persons who are illegal using arms and ammunition to terrorize the state. In other words, to make the state weaker. And I would, want to put on record that all that is happening is weakening the state. Ghana is becoming a weak state by the day. And until and unless we're able to check this, and I still maintain that it should be possible to do it. But that is the angle to which the resources that we have for national security, police, military, immigration, customs, plus the national security outfit in its narrowest sense, should be applied.
It looks like really this situation has been with us for some time, but it looks like it's been a sacred topic until now. Sacred topic in terms of how we're pushing for politicians to disband these groups. But right now we've had a lot of people speak, including the police, which is saying we are poised to deal with these people as criminals. Do you have the inclination to believe that the police is actually ready to help deal with this problem?
See, the phenomenon that we are faced with is that all of us, for personal and other reasons, don't talk truth to power. We don't dare challenge persons in authority who give us orders that we consider unlawful. And I believe in the police code, as it is in the military code. It is not all orders that need to be obeyed. So I would challenge the police that if indeed, as the Interior Minister has been saying, that the President now and Presidents prior have been saying that the police must do their work. How come the police is not doing their work? If we had had one instance of the police doing their work, and there has been clear victimization, then I think we can, floor the political entity. But there hasn't been a case where the police has spoken truth to power and conducted operations and arrested persons. And I think in this case, we need to extend the argument as Evans did yesterday and other persons have done to the judiciary, that we take such persons to court in those instances where the police has effected arrest. And then they give in very minor sentences, some of which are paid for by these so-called, warlords and financiers within the political system. So the political party will stand to gain from the peace and security that must prevail for them to be able to exercise political power, are themselves undermining, that arrangement. Unfortunately, when the state collapses, and we cannot rule that out, if this trend continues, it is not only politicians who are going to suffer. It is all of us, not only citizens, but even foreigners who are within the national borders, who are, obliged by international law to be protected within the boundaries of this country.
Let me bring Malik Abbas-Dabo into this conversation, and Malik will be talking momentarily about our own campaign here, and we've asked people to send us their thoughts about this, as well as people, groups they may know that we don't have the names yet. But you disagree largely with the soft way of going about things, providing people, say, announcing an amnesty and saying because you think that the previous one has largely not been successful.
Yeah, absolutely right. My disagreement is founded in the experience and in our own history. Our history has shown that these buybacks have not always worked. I remember Salif Naina, who was Northern Regional Minister in 2009 March, when he said that as part of measures to deal with the Dabon crisis, that persons should bring back their guns, and there was amnesty for them. They would receive some cash payments. After a 30-day period that he gave, not one gun was turned in.
What if there was no gun to be turned in?
But we knew that there were guns. We knew that there are guns, and the Small Arms Commission would tell you the number of the proliferation of small arms in this country. I remember also in dealing with the Boku disagreements between the Mamproses and the Kusasis, the Northern Regional Minister at the time, Mark Woyongo, also declared this guns buyback. It didn't happen. And it is not difficult to find the reasons why it doesn't happen. When somebody spends thousands of Ghana cedis to buy a gun, they buy it and they are motivated to keep it and to own it because it gives them a sense of security, it gives them a sense of protection, it gives them a certain false sense of power and strength. There is no amount of monetary motivation to give to that person to bring back that gun.
So for you, then we'll have to revert to Colonel Abuaje's, position or preposition that these people there should be surveillance on these people. Then they're monitored, the ammunitions are taken away, they're prosecuted. That's your proposition, right, Colonel?
Well, I stand for combining a number of tools. And not for us to fool ourselves by saying that the soft measures or softer measures, including amnesties and weapon buyback programs alone, would suffice. It's not going to work.
Okay.
We need to use or complement the softer approaches with more coercive approaches. Absolutely. And not all of them actually need to be that forceful. For instance, let me give you one scenario. We've had episodes of persons using the platform of motorbikes to conduct a number of or commit a number of crimes.
Yeah.
Have you seen a concerted effort by the security agencies of this state, particularly the police, mounting roadblocks, stopping, searching police riders? We've not seen it.
Well,
so
in fairness to the police, I've occasionally seen that happen. And indeed, here in Ghana, there is a ban on, especially using motorbikes for private transportation purpose, private commercial transportation purposes.
That's right.
Every now and then, I think that what happens is that they focus on places where they probably regard as flashpoints, where they mount these roadblocks are. But indeed, your point is that it's not as robust as it should be, I guess.
It's not as robust, and it's not as concerted as it should be.
Okay.
So, given 9/11, still well, it's still left. Maybe you don't see that high-level profile of uniform personnel, but trust me, they've learned the lesson. They've deployed technology. They've deployed other plainclothes surveillance persons and armed personnel at certain airports and so on, in order to ensure that 9/11 doesn't happen, or that it becomes more difficult for 9/11 to happen. So that's one of observation that you made that the police have stopped and searched. How many more times have you not seen the police just find them at traffic lights and allowing a full of police auto riders to just regulation. Some of these motor riders might be carrying, especially those who carry on themselves certain parts, and those who carry other passengers carry certain loads. You see, whether they're coming from crime scenes or whether they're going to commit crime, the state has been absolutely impotent, not concerted, not forceful, and therefore the perception is that, look, the motorbikes have become the weapon of choice or the platform of choice. Just get a weapon of any form, and you can earn a living. Whether you are paid for by party gurus, paid for by party financiers or warlords, we're not doing enough. And it's as if we're not aware that what is happening is leading this country, into the abyss.
All right. Again, Malik, you were making a point before I brought Colonel in, but I will wrap up with you, Colonel, before I bring Malik in. I'll wrap up with you after with your thoughts on what you expect of the Commission as far as this conversation, disbanding these groups. What should the Commission do as far as this conversation is concerned, disbanding these groups is concerned? What your expectations are, Malik?
Let me pick up from where Colonel left off with respect to the use of motorbikes. And you were talking about the ban. Respectfully, that ban is on paper. In reality, we all know that that ban is not enforced. You know why that ban is not enforced? Even though it is part of the Road Traffic Act that motorbikes are not supposed to be used for commercial purposes, we have had members of parliament and members of parliament on both sides asking that the law should be amended and that people should be allowed to use motorbikes. And many of these members of parliament were in parliament when the Road Traffic Act was passed. And yet, these people who ought to have read these provisions and ought to have made amendments to them, allowed the law to pass, they have come back and they are saying, no, hold the law in abeyance, allow people to violate the law and use motorbikes.
But that doesn't still mean that it's legal. It's still illegal.
I'm just saying that it is on paper. Beyond that, I'll give an example. When last year, 31st December, 20, and I think that happens to be the day this by-election, 31st January, 31st December, when they held the New Year ball in New York, in Times Square. The NYPD said that there were things that were not going to be tolerated there. One of them, backpacks. The second one was umbrellas, that they will not tolerate backpacks or umbrellas at Times Square for this event. Okay. It rained throughout the day. The CNN, if you watched television, the CNN picked camp at various parts of Times Square to do their events there. They were using umbrellas. The NYPD went up on stage and told them to take off the umbrellas on set. And that if they didn't take off the umbrellas within a certain time, they were going to revoke their pass for them to be there.
Okay.
This is what I'm talking about, enforcement. Okay. The biggest problem this country faces is lack of enforcement. And all of us, collectively, have worked to undermine the authority of the police. We have virtually rendered the police incapable of enforcing the law, enforcing law and order. Everybody in this country, when you get arrested, can go to the police or go to your pastor, go to your imam, go to your chief, go to your MP, go to your minister, go to somebody, and the person can make an intervention on your behalf and the law will be set aside and you'll be let go. That doesn't happen in any self-respecting society. Now, when that happens, what tends to happen is you cripple the police. The Ghana police is completely crippled. It is only the reason why these guys are able to do the things that they do,
which is why we're waging this campaign, disband militia, party militia now. And this afternoon, like I indicated, the chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Josephine Nkrumah, has been speaking to the media. They seem to have a plan as to what to do with it. They're also part of the war. She joins us on the line now. Madam Josephine Nkrumah, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Very well, thank you. So what is the NCCE's own plan or strategy to deal with it? It seems you have some great ideas.
Well, I think if we all understand this as an issue of national character, then I think it behoves on all of us to have as wide consultations as we can in order to get the collective views of people, the citizenry, stakeholders, institutions, name it, to share their perspectives of the issue on how they see it and how they understand that these issues can be resolved. It is on this premise that NCC has undertaken a wide stakeholder engagement in order to ascertain for ourselves and to collect views of all the stakeholders in the country relevant to this particular issue. So we've met all the political parties. We met the parties without representation in Parliament in one group.
Okay.
We've met the National Democratic Congress. We've met the New Patriotic Party. We've met the trade union, the Chief Justice, the Inspector General of Police, the National Security Council under the Joint Intelligence Committee. We've met the Chief Imam. We've met the National Peace Council. And we've met Shraj, all in a bid to understanding and collating their views.
Okay.
And once we finish with these broad stakeholder consultations, we're going to hold a national summit or dialogue on this matter in order for us all to fashion out a roadmap. So the dialogue would, of course, include all the representatives of the various institutions that we've mentioned, as well as, many Ghanaians who are welcome to this summit, so that we can fashion out the roadmap, short term, medium term, and long term.
When is this national dialogue happening?
We expect it to happen in the next 4 weeks. In the next 4 weeks.
So you're looking at a month after.
If I may.
Please go ahead.
What we are doing is, after we've collected all the views of these stakeholders, we're going to issue a report which will be presented to the President, hopefully the National House of Chiefs and the Council of State as well, sharing the views as expressed through the consultations to these three institutions, and then calling for that summit to be held where all of us, civil society organizations, can engage and collectively fashion out this roadmap so that we will have the buy-in of everybody, both all the political parties, the security agencies, civil society organizations, religious bodies, everybody on board, because, as I said, it is a matter of national character, and we want that to reflect in the summit that we would be organizing.
This is really an ongoing conversation, and I'm wondering, at the NCCE level, what do you think is the cause or is at the root of this problem?
I think it's a multifaceted problem. So there's not there's no particular issue that has. You have various issues that have come up and yet. So these issues have been expressed by stakeholders. But I think there is a recurring theme, and the recurring theme is the political intrusion in the affairs of security agencies, the appointment processes that go with security agencies, and that which more or less emasculates the security agencies or personalities in the security agencies in performing their duties.
Okay.
One of the key things has been the security of tenure of public servants, which of course includes the security agencies, and ways that we can insulate the security agencies from such political intrusion. Lastly, we think that we consider that these have contributed to what we find now in terms of the bringing up of all these vigilante groups. I think you would also bear with me in going, at least in the fourth Republican era, where these vigilante groups were more or less established to protect the ballot box, so to speak. But if you look at the journey of the electoral processes in this country, we've come a long way.
Okay.
And going forward, you can tell that we have a much more improved transparency in terms of the electoral processes. And therefore, there's no justification for the establishment of these groups to take the ballot box.
I realize that you continue to identify them as vigilante group. I'm sure you haven't. You didn't get the memo. You didn't get the memo.
No. I use it. We as a commission have hesitated to even to kind of legitimize the word vigilante.
Because the new description. The new description now is party militia.
Party militia.
Party
yes,
militia,
party
FYI.
Militia. Yes.
So you join in
party militia, as Raymond has spoken to me about. Yes, party militia.
Party militia as the commission.
Whatever nomenclature we choose to call them, of course, that also has a bearing on the perceptions we have about these people.
Very
and
well.
I think one of the very critical things about this is to depoliticize the crimes that are committed by these perpetrators.
Right. Okay. So depoliticizing the crime. I have our deputy head of political desk here. He has a quick question for you, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah. So, Mrs. Nkrumah, I'm listening to you talking about these laborious processes that you are going to engage in to meet with all these stakeholders, and I'm thinking, is that not precisely the problem? That usually we allow these things to fester, and then we engage in all of. Yes, and I said we allow these things to fester, and then we engage in this fine engagement with all these people that, quite frankly, leads nowhere.
I don't think so. I think we are looking to finding a lasting resolution to this. Of course, in the past there have been attempts at disbanding these groups. And one of the key things that has been done is parties coming out expressly to say that we have disbanded our party vigilante groups. That is what has occurred. But in reality, we know that these groups continue to exist.
Because Ms. Nkrumah, if I can interrupt you, because the parties have not categorically said that they've disbanded so-and-so group. What they've done usually, Malik, is to deny the ownership of these.
Or sometimes distance
themselves from the actions of these groups. Yeah.
I think that there is an incident, and there is some history to this where parties, I think towards one of our election cycles, where they came out and said, oh yes, we have disbanded our group. And we wanted to go beyond the word. We want to see it indeed. Okay. And we need to interrogate the issue, because beyond the issue of these party militias are also free-range militia groups that are beginning to sell their wares to the highest bidder. So it goes beyond just the party. So that is what we are interrogating, and we think it is important for us to get the perspectives of all the stakeholders involved.
Okay. Mrs. Nkrumah, your outfit is welcome.
Nkrumah.
Oh, Ms. Nkrumah, thank you for that. Your outfit is welcome to the hashtag. The hashtag banned party militia now. That's the JoyNews campaign ongoing. So I'm sure that you'd like to join this campaign, so that since we all seem to have the same objective. But thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
And we hope that we all get a solution to this very troubling trend. Kenneth, do I still have you there?
Yes, I am around.
Very well. Let me take your quick thoughts on what you've just heard from the NCCE. Do you have any, are you optimistic? Are you optimistic about the NCCE's venture towards helping to solve this problem?
Well, I didn't hear...
oh, you didn't hear her?
Intervention very clearly, but I think I would endorse all that she said.
Well, the highlight basically is that they're going to embark on a national dialogue, after which a report will be sent to the president. And this national dialogue involves stakeholders, civil society organizations, National Peace Council, religious bodies, etc. They will embark on a national dialogue, and then they will present a report to the presidency. But Malik here thought that, we've done this over the years. We'll go around, talking about dialogues, having meetings, setting up meetings, and at the end of the day, we don't really see any impact.
Yeah, I think I will associate with a national dialogue plus national education plus enforcement plus inducement for amnesties and weapons buyback plus removing the influence that political parties have over the security agencies plus restructuring the national security architecture in order to deal or address this phenomenon that has crept onto us, where national security, more or less, is maintaining a parallel force that should have been located either within the police or the army and or both.
Right.
And finally, I think we need to strengthen the rule of law within this country to address the issues that we're all talking about.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. Colonel Festus Abuaje, Colonel retired Festus Abuaje there. He's a security analyst there. So some of your thoughts and your comments have been coming in, Malik, and I want us to talk about this hashtag, this campaign that we're doing here at JoyNews. What really we want to achieve with it. Let's share with our viewers a bit more.
There's a recognition that the media has power. That is not in doubt. And what we tend to use that power for is for the good of the society. What we are seeking to do is mobilize the nation, and we've done this time and again. That's because that's what we exist to do, to draw awareness to the dangers that the merchandising of violence poses to every single one of us, that not any of us is not secure, because you have a plot of land and there are people who have merchandised violence, and that can be procured to deprive you of your natural and constitutional and legal right
and ownership of these lands.
Absolutely. That everyone is endangered by this kind of attitude, that it is absolutely important and critical that every single one of us demand that no person shall have power and authority to act outside of the laid down security structures and to determine whether a person has peace and quiet or not. That cannot be tolerated in a law-governed society. That all of us, as we came together to fight Galamsey, all of us, we should see this as an even more dangerous development than Galamsey, such that we should all put our wheels to the shoulder and deal with that. Talking about the police, and I just heard Colonel talking about the influence that the politicians have on the police. I think that there is some truth to it, but the larger majority of the responsibility should go to the police. And I always cite this example about the late Anwabtoge Awuni. This was a police officer who, regardless of his personal comfort, decided that he would do the things that a police officer has to do, that he will execute his mandate, whether you transfer him, whether you move him around or not, he will do his job. I think our police people have learned to be too comfortable, that everyone is afraid to take the decisions, fearing that you'll be transferred. Look, police officers have security of tenure. And Mrs. Nkrumah was talking about security of tenure for our security officers. Police officers have security of tenure. The only thing that anyone can do to them is to transfer them. And that is what many police people do not like.
Okay. So, Malik, let me share with us a few of your comments that have come through. This one says, these groups are illegal and must be disbanded. They should be prosecuted if found. Any party attempting to protect or justify their actions should also be sanctioned. Kwame Francis from Bandai. Well, Kwame, the political parties are the ones in charge. Sometimes they won't put sanctions on themselves. It's up to us to put the pressure on them to do the right thing. It says, please, these groups are members of the various political parties, are not owned by the said parties, but only formed by individuals in these parties. They should be apprehended anytime a crime is committed so that leaders of these groups can be dealt with. But to disband them, it will be difficult. You do not add your name to it, but that's okay. And this one said, Mohammed Mochako from Gushewu. He said, if the NDC and the NPP are not willing to disband this vigilante group, Ghanaians should forget these political parties and turn to other minority parties. Both the NPP and NDCs don't have Ghana at heart. They think they can continue to play with Ghanaians. It is just the matter of time. They will regret the seats they have broadcasted. JoyNews, you have our full support.
Gifty, I asked a question in the morning. Let me ask you that question again. When you talk to either of the two parties, the NPP say they are recruiting and training and sponsoring these guys to protect the ballot. The NDC says they are doing precisely that. Who are they protecting the ballot from?
From each other.
Absolutely. So if no one trains and recruits anybody, would there be the need for any protection?
Well,
absolutely
you tell
not.
us what you think about that question. This one says, it is very necessary we stop and fight all vigilante groups. And you guys all keep saying vigilante. It's okay. Now the new word is party militia. The expression party militia. Let's go with that and let's be able to let's fight against them. It says, vigilante groups in Ghana, we must avoid partisan politics into this issue and fight as a nation. I thought NPP said the battle is the laws. Why mask militia men? Joe in Tamale sends that through. And let me take one or two more and wrap up on that. This one is asking about what has become of the hashtag Bring Back Atadi Girls. That hashtag is on. Of course, there's no limit to how many hashtags you can create. Hashtag Bring Back Our Girls is on. Hashtag disband party militias is also on. Join in the conversation and let's go. This one said, disband, hashtag disband party militias now. I have seconded. Thank you very much for your support. A lot of you think that this is the way to go. We obviously think so. This nonsense must stop, you say. The youth of today go doing the bidding of politicians while the politician takes their children to study abroad. I simply don't know what is wrong with the youth of today. Uswansa from there. So you keep sending your thoughts through. But let's bring you an update on the Commission of Inquiry into the Ayawaso West Wuogon election. Of course, the violence that characterized that particular election. It's day 5 of the hearings today, and 2 main individuals key to the incident made appearances to give their own testimony. A director of operations at the National Security Colonel Michael Opoku was the first to appear.
The mask, as my DSP said, was mosquito, but it wasn't for mosquitoes. I think it was just a joke that he made. But we normally mask to ensure that our operatives are not seen. Operatives live within the communities. If you see a policeman even mask, it means that policeman is living within the community and he can be seen today or tomorrow after operation. So normally, those who live within or who are likely to be seen and their cover will be blown are masked. And in this situation, those who are masked, that was the essence. We didn't want their cover to be blown. If you check further, after this, I've seen a lot of pictures in town, some wanted with some of my men, and others, they mistook them to be our men, but they are the National Police Force at some houses, some were at some funerals, and they were trying to put up their face before the populace. So you can imagine if we had not masked their faces now, what would have happened to the people who went on that confidence patrols? And I will give you an audio, which will not be played here, where some were saying that they were going to go after these masked men. I don't know how they were going to remove the mask and follow them. And if the worst should happen, they are likely to kidnap their family to ensure that these people will come forward. I will provide the audio for you.
Do you have it readily available?
It's in the car. After this, I can provide for you.
Very well. Colonel, first of all, let me clear this.
you said the explanation given by your commander is he DCOP or DSP?
No, DSP.
DSP Azugu was meant to be a joke. Am I right?
My Lord, you remember he gave 2 reasons.
Yes.
One was the fact that when they go to certain places, there will be mosquitoes. So they normally carry them along. Then they use it to cover their face. And the second reason he gave was the fact that they don't want to be seen because they live in the community. But I think people have taken the mosquito one as the one of importance more than keeping the identity away from.
Colonel Michael Opoku, speaking earlier. So one of the key parts of this conversation has been why the police did not know, or why the police had said earlier they did not know who these men were. Well, Colonel Opoku has been explaining how they gather their intelligence and what they do with that intelligence that they've gathered. Why the police, or explaining why the police did not have that information, prior information that they were going to be there for that operation.
On the 30th, we had a lot of information that people have moved from Tamale and Accra and Kumasi to join their counterparts in Ayawasi Wagon or Greater Accra in general. And most of these people had weapons on them. Late evening on 30th, my SWAT commander, who has been here before, DSP Azugu, came and reported to me that he has had an information that some of these people that we've been monitoring had come from the north and Kumasi, were moving into a house close to the La Balewashi Primary School with weapons. And all weapons, we assume, carried some ammo on them. I took his information and I asked him to stand by the SWAT team, which is made up of police personnel. Their total number is 36, or 36 or 35. And we will need more than that number. I have a lot of operatives working within the system. If you need it, I'll provide it in camera about their deployment within the system. Among the operatives, I've trained about 100 of them that normally assist the SWAT team. They are not SWAT members, as they are always referred to. They are operatives who work with the SWAT team. So my DSP, after doing his assessment, came back and said he will need about 60 men. The SWAT is only 35. And 60 men means that I will need to support him with operatives. So we decided that he will use 25 of his police SWAT members, then we'll augment his strength with 35 national security operatives. So in total, we had 60 members of the team, which was made up of 25 SWAT, National Police SWAT personnel on postings to national security, and 35 operatives. I issued him with an operational order to stand by to conduct confidence patrol and be prepared for any other attacks on order. Because as at that time, we were still doing surveillance on the people who had come down to Accra.
Colonel Michael Opoku is the Director of Operations and National Security Secretariat. Malik, over to you.
Interesting revelations. Quite confident, more confident than some of the people who appeared before the commission, especially those who played roles in the security setup. He was more confident. One of the things that jumped out at me was when he sought to manage
the testimony of DSP
Azugu's comments about mosquitoes being the reason, being one of the reasons why they carried the. Well, he said that it was meant to be a joke.
So this is how he put it directly, Malik. He says, "I'm sure that was a joke." And then later on, when he talked about work operations that this group has undertaken, he says, well, they've been to Shy Hills or somewhere else where he says there were mosquitoes. He said that is where DSP Azugu's mosquito narrative comes to play. So you see, that's quite managed.
And he made reference to people taking Azugu's comments out of context and harping on the mosquito thing, when in fact he had said that one of the reasons why they wear the masks is so that they will not be identified by the person, because they live in communities. They are operatives who live in communities, collect information, gather intelligence, and so if their identities were to be known or established by the people with whom they live, as national security operatives, nobody would trust them and will give them any information again.
Right.
And so the mask has some usefulness. So that's one of the things that he said, who jumped out at me. But there were many other things that
many other things, including the video that was played to him, and he claims that that video has been doctored. Well, as part of that video, you see a JoyNews logo. Now, JoyNews has nothing to do with that video and the way it was put together. Of course, there's so many of these videos spread across the internet, bits and pieces. All media houses have their own, and they have their own logos on it and all of that. These have been put together with a narration. JoyNews has nothing to do with that video. Whether or not it's doctored is a different matter altogether, but we did not put together that narration. And he also said JoyNews had reported that 2 people were killed. We have nothing to do with that. We did not report that 2 people have been killed. That we need to put on the record. Absolutely. Malik, hashtag disband party militia now.
It will take some time, won't it?
It will.
But everybody should join it. Let's make the hashtag quite popular.
And I'll end with this message we got from Abdul Karim from Accra Newtown. Abdul Karim says, please, this is very bad, sad and terrible how these militias in political parties are given this much power and being tolerated among our parties in Ghana. He says the president and all political leaders must sit up and bring an end to this party militia groups, and also our security forces and personnel must deal with any militia group from any party without fear or favor. Hashtag disband party militias now. And I love the way everybody has launched onto this hashtag. This is how we get the results. This is how we get the pressure on the people who have to make the decision that we're all asking for. Malik, thank you very much for coming. Of course, Malik Abbas Dabu is Deputy Head of a political desk at JoyNews, and you know that the root of all of these, even though it's security, is politics.